So today I'm gonna present something that a lot of you may find interesting, and a lot of you already know what it is. And it's the roadmap to become a Java software engineer. So أنا my journey started هون بالجامعة اللبنانية من سنة أولى، بس كنا كورونا وقتها فاشتغلنا كل الوقت بالبيت، درسنا من البيت. So الفكرة هي إنه what did I study? What steps did I take? And how did my journey concluded بميوركس. So هذا الشيء اللي حاحكي عنه اليوم، واكيد حاحكي اكثر بالتفاصيل انه maybe more about the soft skills, maybe about technical skills، وكلهم حنشوفهم بهذه البرزنتيشن today. واجين اذا حدا عنده اي question don't hesitate to just raise your hand, stop me ونرجع بنكمل answering the question. Okay? So هون ببلش البرزنتيشن انه how to become a Java champion. And the reason I chose this name is because كثير مرات بشوف انه عالم بدها تفوت بالمجال، عالم بدها تفوت as a Java developers but they don't know where to start، او حتى they know where to start but not how to end it or what their goals are وكيف اصلا فيهم يوصلوا للشيء اللي بدهم اياه. ف this presentation is based on that. Okay? So حنحكي اكثر بالتفاصيل شو الستبس اللي ممكن تاخذوهم وحتى اشياء I regret not learning بسنين الجامعه اللي انا اشتغلت فيها. So yeah, that's why I said by a software engineer really. It's really like that. So أول step بنبلش فيها هي the language basics. Okay, هذه كلكم تعرفوها. بلش بالجافا basics. So basically بنبلش ب for loop, if conditions, while loops, the JVM, setup، كل هالقصص. هول already بتعرفون I think. So basically اللي أخذوا كورس السنة الثانية تبع جافا I think they already know it. أو اللي ما أخذوا they will actually take it. It is a really basic process of how to learn just how to code in general, how to program. Okay? The next step that usually people take اللي هي ال OOP, Object Oriented Programming. حدا ما عنده فكرة عن ال OOP؟ That's fine if you're like first year, you don't have any idea of what it is. It's basically using objects to create paradigms, to create designs in your code in order to make it more flexible and create big applications with it. Okay? And then something that a lot of people skip, collections framework. حدا عنده فكرة شو معنات collections؟ Okay. So for a lot of people أول شيء حكيت عن Java basics, so we can skip that, and the Java OOP as well. You already know the encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism, I think. all the basic rules. Polymorphism مش مبينة تحت بس it's there صدقوني. So here's the collections framework. Collections framework is basically a list of data structures. كلكم تعرفوا شو معنات data structures؟ Okay. So for the people اللي راح عليهم أنطون it's basically a set of things that we can use, tools that we can store data with, that we can manipulate data with in order to to create bigger applications and in good performance. And for example, if we want to نقول for example إذا نحن بدنا شيء unique elements, what can we use? We use a set. We don't use an array, and so on. A lot of beginners start with using the arrays, so the brackets, you know them. But later on, you need to switch to the collections framework. So you start using lists, start using sets, queues, maps, especially maps. You'll see a lot of maps during your work. Okay? So that's a very important step to learn. من بعدها عنا الimportant tools. So خلصنا من language basics. طب أنا هلا شو بدي أعمل من بعدها؟ بدك تتعلم شوية tools لحتى تقدر تبني applications that are big, that are scalable, that you can work with different people. في applications اوكي انت عملت شويه كود you want to share it اوكي بحطه على جوجل درايف اعمل له زب ويلا بينزلوه. ما عادش بيمشي، لا الدكتور بيعرف يفتحه ولا انت بتعرف تفتحه ولا غيرك بيعرف يفتحه وخلص راح البروجكت. So what we can do is we can learn some tools in order to collaborate with others and in order to build really big flexible projects. One of the tools is Git and GitHub. Okay? يلي ما عندهم فكرة عن what is Git and what is GitHub. Basically, Git is a version control system, VCS. And what it does is basically your code تعمل له packaging in steps. And basically we call them commits. هول الستبس بينحطوا كلهم سوا وبينعمل لهم push على شيء مثل GitHub. Okay? And when you push it to GitHub, it's basically available to the people. You allow them to pull your changes, to pull your code. For example, إذا أنا عندي project, I want to share it with like 3 people among my team. بعمل repository على GitHub. بعمل repository locally على Git. أنا my code بعمله as a repository. هلا هو كلهم بتتعلمون through tutorials, through courses. I'm just here to give you the basic idea of everything, how it works together. فمن بعد ما عملنا repository على on our computer وعملنا a remote repository منها على GitHub, what we can do is we take our code from the local repository and push it to the remote repository. طب اوكي عملت هيك شو استفدت؟ بيجي مثلا my teammate, okay, I give them access to the remote repository, they pull the code, بيجيبوا الكود من remote repository صار ماشي عنده. Okay, that's how it works. بس اذا بتجربوها عن جد ثلاث ارباع الاوقات ما حتزبط، خاصة بالجافا. مش ما حتزبط as in جيت مش عم بيشتغل شغله، بس ما حتزبط as in جافا مش عم بيتقبل اللي غيري كاتبه، عم جد جبته لهون أم ما عادش زبط أم ما بعرف شو. ليه؟ That goes to the build system. So usually انتوا as Java developers خاصة like تاني سنة or still in university ما بتعرفوا شو معناتها build system. And you never use it because الدكاترة ما بيقولوا لكم عنه because it's not complicated صراحة، بده شي ساعتين كله على بعضه. بس nobody tells you about this. A build system is a system that gets your code and builds it into something packageable, into something that you can deploy on a server, into something that you don't need to think about the libraries. I don't need to think about any other complications. I just write my code and the build system handles everything else. Okay, so it handles running the tests. هنوصل للتست بعدين. It handles compiling the code, and it handles cleaning. It handles a lot of things that you've never thought about. حتى it handles a lot of things about Git as well. So using a build system like Maven or Gradle, okay, ومع استعمال الجيت بنفس الوقت، أي كود بتحطوه على repository is gonna run. No way it's not gonna run. Okay, so it's very important to use either one of these. أو إذا بدكم ANT اللي هو من 1900 وما بعرف قد so never use that. I always suggest that you learn about a build system. It's always gonna be used in work, okay, and it can run even without an IDE. من دون IntelliJ، من دون أي شيء. Just using a build system, okay. It's not related to an IDE. في واحد يكون عم يشتغل Eclipse، واحد عم يشتغل IntelliJ. They both run Maven, so the code compiles, the code works. You can run the code, you can package it, everything works, okay. But that's a very important point. A lot of people skip, and especially when doing interviews, especially when applying to work، ما بيشوفوا هذا الشيء انه عندكم على السي في. يعني شو بدنا نرجع نعدله من اول جديد. So this is something you should focus on. طيب هلا انا حاطط هيك مثل دويره، ما بعرف شو معناتها، بس basically it means start doing projects. يعني هون وصلنا لمرحله انه تعلمنا الجافا بيسكس، تعلمنا الكولكشنز فريم ورك، تعلمنا Git and GitHub to collaborate with our teams, تعلمنا one more thing which is the build systems, and now it's time to create projects using these systems. And the better way to do it is to say, let's cook. Okay, so طيب any questions لهون about the build systems, about Git and GitHub, about the Java basics or anything else? حدا عنده أي شيء؟ It's time to ask. يلا. No, you use both. You use both. They are different things. You have to learn them. أنا هون عامل road map. So بهيدي الرود ماب إنه عم بقول لك شو تتعلم, what's the road, وهلا بالاخير there will be a slide where I will give you the roadmap for free. Yeah. نوصل ل the advanced features. هلا هون شوي حاحكي اكثر. اول شيء عملتهم بسرعه. نحكي عن testing, concurrency and multi-threading, and more advanced Java features. Okay. هولي اشياء انا تعلمتهم in order to get into a job. هولي اشياء كانوا كثير مهمين لحتى انا وصلت لها وين ما انا. concurrency and multi-threading وتستنج بلاهم ما كنت فت على ميركس. no way. ما كانوا خلوني ابقى يعني at least. انا هنا علموني اياهم. so اذا بيشوفوا حدا بيعرف testing ومالتي threading انا oh my god خلص ختم الدنيا. so we're gonna talk about this testing. هلا هون انا حاطط like the tools that we need to use for testing. بس خلينا نحكي اكثر عن what is testing. شو حدا عنده فكره عن testing؟
you test certain methods
هيك شيء. صح. unit testing. How many of you write unit tests? ما تكذب. Okay. Do you usually write unit tests? Okay. Well, I see a lot of people don't learn that writing unit tests is more important than writing the code itself. It's way more important than writing the logic, the code itself. Okay, you have to write tests in order to know that your code is working. What are the advantages? Automatic running of the tests, automatically. The test run, تكبسوا كبسة, tests run. Your application works knowing that the tests are running and they are green, ما في أي errors. إذا أنا رجعت غيرت شغلة بالكود, my old tests will also run again if I press the button. صح ولا لا؟ أو if I call the command يعني. So when they run again, I know that I didn't break anything. How I know that I did break something. So it's very important to write unit test. Okay? وهذا الشيء كثير 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 بيشددوا عليه بميركس. I cannot push one line of code without it being covered by tests. And مش بس بميركس, I mean in general, the standard يعني هذا. You should not write a single line of code without being tested. It's very important. Okay? How do we test it? It's very easy. We can write JUnit. Of course, it's a testing framework. And of course, we use Mockito for mocking services, for mocking dependencies. اللي بعدين بتشوفوهم بقلب tutorials when you actually try it out. في عنا Hamcrest and the SerJ. These are things that you might want to research لأنه كتير حلوين ومعطوين. Okay? So هولي هيك fluent APIs to write tests. It's very nice. Next, concurrency and multi-threading. هيدي أصعب topic. Usually beginners skip it لأنه it's very hard. When I'm telling you it's hard. It's hard on me. It's hard on everyone. It's very complicated. إذا بدكم ما تفوتوا فيها بالأول. أنا I just added it in case someone wants to actually get into it, wants to know more about it. But it's very hard. What does it mean? It means I have a certain something that is running on a thread that's running on my computer. It's using one CPU. The JVM uses one CPU. Okay? And then I want to use multiple CPUs or multiple cores in order to make it faster. How can I make it faster? I want to run two parallel tasks that are not related to each other. Or maybe I want them to be related to each other. Or maybe I want to run 4 tasks or 10 or whatever my CPU can handle. So what do we do in this case? We go for concurrency and multi-threading. Java started concurrency and multi-threading with runnables. This thing here. And it's very old. Okay, it started with thread. So you ask to create a thread from the thread class. And it was hell. Managing threads, managing safety inside the memory because one thread has different memory than the other and they both want to override the same variable. And it doesn't work that way and a lot of complications. And then the Java developers, the Java maintainers, they wanted to make it better, make it easier for others to actually use concurrency and multi-threading. And then they came up with the executor service, so we have thread pools, so many threads executing at the same time using the executor service that manages them all. We have futures, which are Java 7 and Java 8 features. Also, the fork joiners was Java 7, I think, or Java 5. I don't really remember. Then we came to a new different era. So these two here are completely different than what we had there. They are something else. I will talk about reactive programming for a minute here. شو يعني reactive programming؟ حدا عنده فكرة؟ Nobody? Okay. Reactive programming is JavaScript. No, I'm kidding. ما خاصة JavaScript. Reactive programming is basically when you react to something happens. So when you have something, for example, you called a function and it finished executing, you react to the finish of executing of that function. So basically, if I talk to my database, well, give me 1, 2, 3, okay? But after that happens, after that finishes, do something, right? And usually you say, well, it's imperative, right? Like one line of code, the other line of code. No, it's not. Why? I'm telling it to do something, but I'm not waiting for it to finish. No? No. Like signals, yeah. It's kind of similar to that. Actually, it's that thing, but in a more high level way. And if you want to look more about reactive programming, check Project Reactor in Java. You will find a lot of things that are like really mind-blowing, something else. A lot of people don't use reactive programming. Do you know why? Well, it's because it's very hard. It's one of the hardest ways, one of the hardest paradigms in programming ever. Okay? Now we're coming to virtual threads, and what it does is, you see this reactive programming? Java said, okay, let's not use it. I don't want to use it anymore. I will implement it inside virtual threads, and you have reactive programming, but without reactive programming. You just write normal code, and it works like reactive programming. And it was something mind-blowing as well. It is the newest feature in Java 21. So it's the newest thing in Java. And I'm very excited to actually work with that. So here we have the Java 8 features. Yeah.
How do you recommend learning
Reactive programming or
like how do you start with them?
Yeah, you need to move through them all in order to understand what's going on. So that's why. Yes, if you go through a course, they will start with run level. So you don't have to worry. Okay, so they will start with this, then this, then this, then this, then this. Because it's very important to know what has been done and what's going to happen later. Okay? So now we're coming to Java features. And these are not like, a lot of people don't know about them. And that's so sad because these things, they make life much easier. Okay? So what do we have? Do you know that you can write Java code without using for loops? Without using any type of loops? Well, you can using streams. Streams is a functional way to do loops. And it's not only like, oh, but it might be like an easier way to write something. No, it's not just that. It is a functional paradigm in order to loop over certain objects, in order to transform these objects, in order to add like logging, add any additional functionality. It's very important to learn streams. And what I suggest is you never touch a for loop again in your life. Never, ever again. Learn streams. They need like 3 hours to learn maximum. And you'll never write a single for loop in your life again. Never. Yeah. It looks bad.
Start learning those after you finish the base.
Yeah, of course. Yani you have to learn loops in order to learn this. You can skip the concurrency if you want. You can skip the concurrency for the end. It's fine. It's fine if you skip the concurrency till the end. Okay, the concurrency is the hardest part, but it's not related to any of this. It's related to just I have a task, I want to run multiple tasks at the same time. That's it. Okay, so these are very important to learn. These are the most important actually. Through this talk, this is the most important. Okay, they are called streams, and you should learn them. Lambda expressions. Do you know what lambda expressions are? Okay, that's good. حدا بيعرف؟ ما حدا؟ Basically, it's a function, but without defining a function. So you just define a function that is like compact, a small function, okay? And you give it like, I want to give this function as a variable. And then I want this function to run like it's a variable, so I store it in a variable. And then I call it like function.apply, and it calls itself. It's very important. Like an anonymous class, but it's a function. Anonymous function, if you want. Okay? You can store it in a variable. It works. It's very important to learn this because you'll be using them in things. Okay? Records. Do you know when we have like a class فيه شي 6000 مليون field و it's just a data class, username, password, email, date of birth, ما بعرف all that stuff? Exactly. So Java actually came up with a solution to this, and it's called records. And what records do is basically they are data classes. They don't have all the getters and setters and all that stuff. Everything is defined. Okay, it's just one line of code, record and the name of the class, and it just works. Okay, so it's very important to learn as this. Virtual flat, I talk about this. So it's in Java 21, and then we're gonna go to optionals. Do you know when we start working on something and boom, null pointer exception, null. How do you handle null? If this equal to null, do that. Else, return the, no. We need to stop that. So optionals came to the rescue. Optionals create a very smooth interactions with nulls. Okay, it's very similar to streams in the way it works. They have the same functions. They have map, filter, all that stuff. They do the same thing, but optionals know if something is null or not. So you don't have to deal with nulls at all. And that's a great thing about options. So Java developers were like, we really need to fix this null thing. And they came up with optionals, and optionals, if you want in a very sophisticated way, it's called a monad, if anyone heard that term before. Monads. It's a very mathematical term. all اللي بيحبوا يفرجوا انه بيفهموا يعني it's a monad. خلص حل عني هذا. نتخطى okay. So basically just what I said, it's a very easy to use tool that will really help you develop Java code much easier. Okay, and these are all things that I wish I knew before I started my first job. Okay, and now coming to this as well. Now talking about other things, so these are not directly related to the code, not directly related to Java. These are in general. There are some libraries that you need to learn because they are amazing. And there are some design patterns as well. I don't like design patterns, let's be clear. I hate them. They are stupid. But they are important. Libraries. So talking about libraries, we have Lombok. Anyone heard of Lombok? So you know what it does? No. So basically it's just everything generated, everything that you need to regenerate it, that you need to retype, getters, setters, constructors, I don't know, equals, hash code, toString, everything. You have like 5 annotations or 1 annotation, which is add data, and it writes everything for you. Without actually writing it, it compiles it. It's very smart. So this is a must learn experience. So it's a must-learn library. You need to learn this. Mapstruct, you will learn about it later. Apache Commons are basically just some tools, some additions to Java, like you know the math library in Java, the utils. Apache Commons has its own math library, for example, or its own functions, for example. So it's just an addition to help you. Okay. Log4j for logging. You know when you println. So log4j is a more sophisticated way of printing these stuff, the console. So you have error printing, you have info printing, you have different levels of printing, and you can also print them to a database. You can also print them to a file. It's very important. So it's a really nice library to have. And during work, this is the only library you're gonna use for printing. You're not gonna use println, you're not gonna use anything else. You're gonna use log4j or logback, for example. But mostly it's log4j. It's very important. Jackson is just a serializable, so it's a serialization library. So what it does is it takes a class, it converts it to JSON, and from JSON to a class, and it fills the data. Okay? Any questions till here? None? Great. I think I skipped something. Yeah, I skipped the design patterns, but it's fine, whatever. So what's next? Anyone has an idea what that is? Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about Java, we've talked about the journey with Java, we've talked about what the steps you should take. Fine. But I didn't build any big application with Java. How can I build a server with Java? How can I build a backend? How can I build a frontend? That's what we're gonna talk about next, not this time. So it's very important to know that you're gonna actually build a lot of things in Java. The rest of the conversation here, it's not gonna be more of a presentation. It's gonna be more of a conversation. I want to ask you some questions, and I will give you more information about my journey. Okay? So there's not gonna be so much slides.